The other day I was walking through my church, and I just happened to walk into one of the adult Sunday school classrooms. There on the whiteboard, someone had written these words: "The return of Jesus Christ is imminent," which means it can happen any minute. I looked at that and I said, it's right on the money. And then I began to think of the problem that we as North Americans have created with that statement. And it's not really any different than the same problem that Christians for the last 2,000 years around the world have created regarding eschatological things, the study of end times. We often want to make them fit our political views, our world views, our circumstances in the culture and society that we experience every day. And we all have this North American desire to live a happy life and die a good death. And if we can't live a happy life and die a good death, we want to live a happy life and escape the misery somehow. And thus we build our eschatology belief systems around that. Yet, when we look at church history from the very beginning of its earliest stages, even in Paul's day, we can find that people were expecting Jesus to return momentarily, any minute. The return of Christ to them was imminent also. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Jesus is not coming back, for he indeed is. And I'm not saying we should believe that he isn't coming back, for scriptures are highly indicative that he will return. What I do think we need to caution ourselves about is that we don't get caught up in making eschatology our sole interest. In fact, because of the so many different views, it's quite obviously no one has it right. And no one probably ever will if we read scriptures right. In Mark 13, verse 32, Jesus says, "But of that day and hour no one knows." One smart aleck televangelist said, "Well, that's just the day and the hour. It's not the month and the year." I think he needs to study Greek more. Jesus goes on to say, "Not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but the Father alone. Take heed, therefore. Keep on the alert, for you do not know when the appointed time will come. It is like a man who's gone away on a journey, who upon leaving his house and putting his slaves in charge, assigning to each one his task, also commanded the doorkeeper to stay on the alert. Therefore, be on the alert." This is the third time we've heard this. "For you do not know when the master of the house is coming, whether in the evening, at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, in case he should come suddenly and find you asleep. What I say to you, I say to all, be on the alert." Jesus simply says, be prepared. I could come back, but you don't have a clue when. And to sit and predict the circumstances and situations and apply that to our worldview is no different than most any other generation in Christianity has done around the world. Very interesting. And if you could look at the chain and the thread of eschatological belief systems that have developed over the last 2,000 years with an honest view, it does kind of get humorous. Jesus simply says, live your lives in the kingdom. I've given you all tasks to do, and you need to be alert to my second coming, but you need to do the work of the kingdom. That's the important part. Probably one of the best eschatological scriptures that I know of is found in Acts chapter 1, not a place most Bible eschatology preachers go to, especially kind of by itself, or to use it as a synopsis of the return of Christ. Most preachers and teachers of biblical eschatology, of end times, of the return of Christ, beat Revelation and Daniel to death, or maybe even Matthew 24 or Mark 13. But here is the truth of the matter in Acts chapter 1, verse 9. And after he had said these things, he was lifted up while they were looking on, and a cloud received him, Jesus, out of their sight. And as they were gazing intently into the sky, while he was going, behold, 2 men in white clothing stood beside them. They also said, Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into the sky? I think that's a great question to ask every Bible eschatology teacher out there. Why do you stand looking into the sky? Making your books, your DVDs, your CDs, your charts and your graphs, when Jesus has given you a task to do in his kingdom. And when your charts and your graphs and your books and your CDs and your DVDs simply argue with others with different views and prove nothing sound from Scripture. Goes on to say, this Jesus who has been taken up from you into heaven will come in just the same way you have watched him go into heaven. I could sit and break this down, but I don't need to. It says it all. And if you're willing to sit there and ask the questions and diagnose the text, even in your English translations, let alone what it may imply in the Greek language of the first century, I think you'll understand that we have work to do in God's kingdom. We do not have to argue over the return of Christ. We do not have to be certain that we are that generation, though we may be. What we need to do is reach the lost. What we need to do is live the task that Jesus has given us in our day and age. We need to abandon North American eschatology and live biblically in his kingdom. St. Francis of Assisi said this, preach the gospel every day. Use words when you have to.